Why are you not empowered to free yourself from the lands of your captivity back then under the Romans, and today in 2015 in all the lands that were scattered? Why are you still at the bottom, Israelite? Why are you still not getting the best jobs? Why are you still bouncing checks? Why are you suffering so much? Why are you? You have not been delivered by any Jesus or any Son of God. Shalom once again, it's Yalak Emet. You can reach me at yalak-emet@outlook.com, or on my YouTube page at the channel Yalak Emet. I'm about to do another lesson in the New Testament is Fake series. As you know, I've been teaching that there is something wrong with the New Testament. I pointed out in an earlier video that, some have said the New Testament might not necessarily be fully false, but it's not fully true either. My thing is that, it could be true in some ways, because there are a lot of things in it that are true because it was written with things in it from the Old Testament. But the overall message that it gives, as far as I can see, is that it is deceptive. Because when I read the Old Testament, the overall or general message that I come away with from the Old Testament is something that is spiritually healthy. And it leads me to the Creator, it leads me to the Most High, it leads me to the God of Israel, without a lot of complications. Usually the difficulties I have when I read the Old Testament, even when I first started heavily reading it, I found that the things I didn't understand was just needing more time and more looking into it and learning the scriptures. But I didn't really come away with a feeling of this is very confusing. But when I read the New Testament, which I've read all my life, I come away with a general feeling that I have to jump over hoops and hurdles and all that stuff to understand what it's saying, as well as to communicate that to someone else. It's very difficult. This thing here about Peter saying that people misunderstand Paul's writings to their own detriment is really problematic, and a lot of people have difficulties with that and just think that's just so, ridiculous. The God of the Old Testament doesn't seem to speak in ways that leave you wondering. Can you imagine the Most High giving his laws at Sinai, and people have to go and, go away and do a 5-year course to learn how to understand that? It's simple. Commandments, don't have any other gods before me. That's simple. Like, what more do you need to learn to understand what that means? Don't kill someone. What more do you need to learn? And so as I go through the Old Testament, I find that the things I more have a problem with is just learning, so-called Jewish life, Jewish understanding, right? Just like I'm from Jamaica, if I try to say certain things to you about Jamaican life, you would get a partial amount of understanding, but not because there is any deception in what I'm trying to tell you about Jamaica, but if you don't have a Jamaican mind and how Jamaicans think and live and so on, that's only what's going to stop you. But once you learn the lifestyle of Jamaicans, then you understand the point that was being made more clearly. The New Testament, however, doesn't allow me to hear "thou shalt not kill" and understand it right away, or "thou shalt not have any other idols before me," and so on, other gods before me. The New Testament talks in ways that lets you have to scratch your head, and you gotta figure out what in the world Paul was trying to say, and why when he said certain things the other apostles didn't jump on it enough. You see, in the Old Testament, people just didn't get away with false doctrine. In fact, the Moses said in Deuteronomy chapter 18 that false prophets should die. But in the New, so you see that he addresses things because why? He thinks things should be clear. So when Moses is telling people all kinds of things, and when Elijah is telling people stuff like, put away Baal, return to the Most High, That's just clear, even without reading another precept. If Elijah says, return to the Most High, put away Baal, this false god, you can understand that right away. If you don't understand who Baal is, you would at least understand that the man is saying, there is a god called Baal that you're serving, get rid of him. So you know what he's saying to that nation. But in the New Testament, when they give certain instructions, certain commands, it leaves you oftentimes wondering what's going on. And so people have to jump over hoops to try to show you how right it is, what Paul was saying or what Peter was saying. And the Hebrew Israelites are doing more of that jumping over hoops to do that. And I'm going to show at the end of this lesson why I personally think that the Israelites are holding onto this Jesus. It's funny. Today, driving in the car, heading back home from work, I heard on a talk show someone saying, the host of the show saying, there are certain things that you can't tell certain people. Right? And he was trying to say that the thing, whatever it was he was talking about, I can't remember, is just clearly not true. And, most of the world knows, but there's some people who believe it and you just can't change your mind. And then he added on, it's just like a Christian. If you try to tell them that this Jesus thing is, I can't remember the word he used or how he put it, but basically saying is not real or fake or so on. They just can't get him out of their mind. You won't be able to convince them about that. He was just saying you just can't convince them. And then I thought to myself, people have always been saying this about Jesus. And I remember that when I was in the Christian church, I used to hear it. But if I'd heard it casually, like on the radio, it would have just passed through my mind. But the thing is that it was always there. It was always being said. But because I wasn't focusing on it, because I believed in Jesus so much, it didn't stand out to me. But it was always happening. It's like when you buy a certain car, all of a sudden now you start seeing that car more and more and more and more. Whereas you used to see it once in a blue moon. You probably never really noticed it more than once every few months. All of a sudden now, almost every day you're seeing that car. That car you were probably always seeing on a daily basis, but now that you own that type of car, you're seeing it more, whereas before your mind just filtered it out because it wasn't significant to you. So I couldn't understand this Jesus problem when I was in the Christian church because I was taught to love Jesus. Right? But now that I'm looking into it, all of a sudden now when I hear it in the background, my mind doesn't filter it out. It says, hey, someone's talking about that as well. You see, more and more things are picking up with this Jesus. He's being exposed. Right? He's being exposed. All right, so lesson number 8 here, I've entitled A Slow Messiah, and I'm going to show what I think to be a slow Messiah. In lesson number 6, I pointed out that Jesus was taking too long to deliver his people and in the end didn't do it. We've got this spiritual, Christianized kind of deliverance from Jesus that is for your sins, that he's dying for. He's delivering you from sin. When I pointed out that the Israelites needed deliverance from the physical bondage they were in, because the Most High already promised to deliver his people from sin or transgression by putting the law in their hearts. Read Jeremiah, I think 31, verse 31 to 34. Right? He already promised that. Okay, and that's actually in Jeremiah 31, verse 33. And he's saying, but this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel. After those days, saith the Most High, I will put my law in their inward parts and write it in their hearts, and will be their power, and they shall be my people. And then if you go on reading next verse, he says, I will forgive their iniquity and will remember their sin no more. So he had already himself promised to forgive. Somebody says, yeah, but that's through Jesus. Hold on. I told you at the start of this recording that in the Old Testament God was very clear. In the New Testament, you have to jump over all kinds of hoops to try to see a point. No, brother, it's just that you have to go precept upon precept. Hold that thought. The Old Testament is still generally clear in what it's saying. And that's how the Most High talks. So like when he says here, I will forgive their iniquity. Most times when I read the Most High saying he's going to restore Israel, save Israel, he's not talking about no other person doing it. Right? He's talking about himself. Himself, he alone. Why that general talk of himself alone? Right? And now you look at this as well, that the Most High said he's going to send his people into captivity as punishment for their transgressions, which they wouldn't stop. Then Jesus comes on the scene, by the way, and he says later on he's going to come and gather them out of the lands of captivity, like as in Isaiah chapter 11, verse 11 to 12, for example. He says he's going to gather them. And in other places he talks about, when his anger is done, is completed and so on, then he's going to come and rescue us and gather us back. Why? To end the punishment. Right? So the God of the Old Testament is saying that. That's how he's going to shoot his people. Now you get a so-called Son of God that comes on the scene, says he's Jesus, and he claimed that he was doing what his Father was doing. He's in sync with his Father. What I see him do, I do. What I hear him do, I say to do, that's what I do. And my Father are one. So if he and his Father is one, and the Father already said his plan, his will, that he's working off his anger, so to speak, by putting us into captivity so we would come to our senses, and, by that pay for our sins and come to our senses, and then he's going to come and gather us, which should be the end of our punishment from what our forefathers did. Why is it that not the Son who is doing the will of his Father, which the will right there is to let us go into captivity so that we would come to our senses and know who we are, that we should be a real set apart people instead of getting into the idolatry and other transgressions of other nations? Why is it that the Son of God, who is supposed to be in sync with the Father, as he claims he was in sync with the Father, is going to come and do something that's contrary to what he is doing? Common sense, people. Stop listening to those camps out there that are telling you to not use common sense. That's the same witchcraft as you were in the other religions that you were in, that didn't make you use your own mind, but you had to use the mind of the teacher. Use your brain to think. That's why the Most High gave you. If the Most High said he's going to send you in captivity and he's going to hurt you until, like read Jeremiah chapter 30 as well, until you come to your senses, and then you will bethink yourselves in the land of your captivity and so on, right? In other words, come to your senses. And know that you shouldn't be living the way you choose to live or the way the other nations choose, but live the way he said you should live according to the covenant that he made with you, right? The commandments and so on. Then if he says all that, how come the Son is going to come and do something totally different and says, yeah, I'm going to just save you right now? You see, the salvation is meant to clear up and end the stuff. When we get salvation, we won't be in the lands of our enemies anymore. That brought us over on cargo slave ships to different parts of the world. And we're still stuck here now after our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-great-grandparents died and all that, having come off the slave ships. Now we are left in these lands of captivity spread all over the earth, right? So how is it that the Son is going to come and save you from that, and you're still left here in the land of captivity, even though he saved you 2,000 years ago? It's a sham. It's a sham. Right? It's fake. Fake salvation. Only witchcraft can make you think you got salvation when you're not in salvation. You have been kidnapped by someone. They're holding you for ransom, and they've got you tied up in a basement. They want $1 million from your rich parents. And they're going to say, oh, your salvation has been taken care of now. Your parents dropped the money. I got the $1 million. You're free. But 5 months later, you're still in that basement, locked up by your kidnapper. Are you free? The Israelites' salvation was them looking for a return to the land promised to their forefathers, a return back to their kingdom, not living in the kingdom of America or the kingdom of Persia or the kingdom of anywhere else. They wanted to be back in their kingdom, to serve the Most High again. That's what they wanted. That was their salvation. And that's why the Most High said, yeah, Isaiah 11:11-12, I'm going to come and gather you back. Why? In the last days, that's what I'm going to do, to give you that salvation and to bring you to my holy mountain. That's the salvation. Is the holy mountain here in America? Again, when they were running from the Romans, running from being slaughtered after Jesus, the so-called Son of God, left, and they were running from them, being thrust through with swords in their bellies, hiding from them in catacombs and being fed to lions, being burned alive, and so on. Were they saved? Yet still, Matthew 1:18, the angel said, he shall save his people from their sins. Anytime the Israelites were saved from their sins, they were delivered from what they were dealing with. Right? That's what they were looking for. That's what they were looking for. Not this Christianized salvation that's just something you feel in your heart. The Israelites didn't want to just feel something in their heart. They wanted to feel like they were in their land by having their foot, the soles of their feet, on their own land again, in peace, serving the Most High, with no one lording over them from another nation. All right, so we got to keep that in mind. Think for yourself. This whole idea of some spiritual salvation that you just feel in your heart that you are saved is a Christianized view of salvation. The salvation that the Israelites looked for was a physical deliverance from the power of their enemies that happened because of the transgressions of their fathers and of themselves as well too, for those who were living at the times when these things were being discussed. Right? So keep that in mind. Now, I'm showing by that the slowness of the Messiah to deliver, building up on lesson number 6 and lesson number 7, the slowness of the Messiah to deliver his people is a point that shows that he could not possibly be the Messiah. He could not possibly be. And there's someone there saying, yeah, he's not the Messiah, he's just our big brother and whatever. Whatever the real deal is with this Jesus, whether he actually did not live, or he was just a rabbi, or he was a big brother, or what, or he's just totally a made up character, is another matter. For me, none of that really matters. What matters is what he did. Did it meet the requirements of Scripture for the Messiah? And did he fulfill, and did he do? He is way too slow. For those who are believing still after 2,000 years that he's going to be a deliverer, he is way too slow. I pointed out in the last lesson that when Moses came and Cyrus to deliver as the type of Messiah, people didn't wait 2,000 years. They got deliverance quickly. Yet 2,000 years later, we're still waiting. Doesn't that ring a bell to you? The frustration you feel because you're putting up with all this kind of stuff. It's like the Israelites teaching that the Christians are deceived about the rapture, right? There'll be no Christian rapture the way Christians explain this rapture stuff, and that when they see all the stuff going on in the earth, with all the major wars breaking out, more than what's going on now, like it's just like massive more chaos. They're going to be disheartened because they're going to be like, oh, no rapture. They told me rapture. I was looking for rapture. And, Mark of the Beast being rolled out. And they told me I'd be gone before that. So now Christians are going to be dashed against the rock, so to speak, in their mind or in their heart, because the disappointment of realizing that Mark of the Beast is being rolled out. They got to go and take some chip. And they still didn't go no rapture. Now, the deception there, right? So I'm saying that the Hebrew Israelites are falling prey to that kind of thinking and situation as well, where they are looking forward to some Jesus to come and save them, and 2,000 years later he still can't do it. Give me a break. The Messiah doesn't move that slow in Scripture. All right? Let's read Exodus chapter 3. And Exodus chapter 3 and verse 7 to 10. We know the story starting about the Most High calling Moses to go and deliver the children of Israel from Egyptian bondage. Exodus 3 verse 7, it reads, And the Most High said, And the Most High said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people which are in Egypt. See that again, of my people. But in Matthew chapter 1, verse 18, the angel is talking about Jesus, talking about he shall save his people. Are they the Father's people or his people? Oh, well, because they're one, whatever. It's like sometimes my is saying that the ownership is with him. A son doesn't normally say that a company is his, right? Until he takes it over later, or until he gets closer to take it over. Jesus is a baby. Well, he's in the womb still, and the angel is already saying it's his people. He hasn't even come yet. Normally a son starting to learn the ropes from his father, and he's growing up and he's a teenager, he's learning stuff and whatever in his father's company. He doesn't walk around saying it's my company and telling the news, putting out, having press conferences and all that, talking about my company. It's my father's company. When he gets older and he's closer or has already taken it over, then you can start to talk like that, right? So, like I said before, whatever is talked about the Most High in the Old Testament, in the New Testament, they try to put it over to Jesus. It's a lie. He said here in Exodus 3:7 that they're his people. Why does the Son have a difficulty saying that it's my Father's people that I've come to save? Is it gonna rob him of too much if he just gives some credit to his Father? So it goes on here in Exodus 3:7. Seeing the affliction of my people, which are in Egypt, and I have heard their cry by reason of their taskmasters, for I know their sorrows. And I am come down to deliver them out of the land of the Egyptians. The point I'm making here is that once he got ready to deliver, he says he is come down, not I'm going to come down. This is some future things. 2,000 years later, I'm going to do this. Jesus came to deliver, and 2,000 years later, Israelites are still walking around with their head chopped off, almost, waiting for some deliverance from Jesus to come, saying he's going to come and he's going to move through the earth and kill people to deliver us and all, but the Most High, he got ready, so he says, I am come down to deliver them out of the land of the Egyptians, right? And started to work on it right away. As soon as he came down, he started to work on it right away, and he got the man Moses and say, I've chosen you to do this, to get involved with doing my work of deliverance, right? So out of the land of the Egyptians, and to bring them out of that land unto a good land. So you see, he clearly tells what he's going to do. So you see that the salvation that he's offering to his people is a physical deliverance, not no spiritual feeling in your heart kind of salvation like you get in the Christian church, that I'm saved and I just know it in my heart and I feel a warm feeling running down my back. Right? That's what they give you in Christianity. The deliverance or the salvation in the Christian church is different from the salvation for the Israelites. The Israelites needed a physical salvation, a physical deliverance. So he said, I'm going to deliver them from the land of the Egyptians, right? And bring them up onto the land, bring them up out of that land onto a good land, right? So another land. Are you still in the land of your slavery? The salvation offered here is to go to another land, out of one land into another land. Just like when Cyrus came, he sent the children of Israel back into their own land. Right? Back into their own land. So you see now how I'm painting the picture that the salvation of the Christianized thinking or Christian religion is a different kind of salvation there. The Christian, they think something different, right? But the salvation for the Israelites is to get into their land. Land. That's the salvation, right? Where they can serve the Most High properly, because certain things, you know, I mean, it's a heritage thing. You're coming back to a land that the Most High promised, right, to set you up as a nation in that land. And so, to a land flowing, onto a land flowing with milk and honey, unto the place of the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites. So the Most High started to work on it right away, and if you read some more, you'll see that they started to take over these lands, right? Why? Because once the Most High said it, things just started to move. It just started to progress, right? Not no sitting now waiting 2,000 years until people get frustrated and I don't know if I can trust this God. You know, it's not like they're like, oh man, when is this gonna happen? I need to just find some other God from some other nation that's working out for them, and they're getting rich off serving their God, so I'm gonna go with them too, because I'm frustrated with this God. Right? I think Solomon said, expectation postponed makes the heart grow sick. You see that? Jesus postponing your deliverance for 2,000 years? Isn't that coming for you, Israelite? Just wake up and read the scriptures again. Verse 9. Now therefore, behold, the cry of the children of Israel is come unto me, and I have also seen the oppression wherewith the Egyptians oppress them. Come now therefore, and I will send thee. You see that? Come now. Now. Come now, not 2,000 years later that Jesus has you waiting, like some so-called Son of God has you waiting, but come now. Therefore, and I will send thee unto Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth my people, not Jesus' people, who's going to save from his sins, but my people, the children of Israel, not from their sins, but out of Egypt. Alright, so we see that the Most High took steps right away once he came down and started to address the situation to deliver them, right? The salvation started to happen quickly from the Most High once he decided to act on it. Jesus decided to act on it by coming here, being born, they say, and 2,000 years later, you're still waiting around. That's a slow Messiah. Let's look at verse 12. Skip one verse, go to verse 12. And he said, certainly I will be with thee, and this shall be a token unto thee that I have sent thee. When thou hast brought forth the people out of Egypt, ye shall serve the Most High upon this mountain. Alright, so when he says here a token, it says a sign and a signal, right? And evidence, right? So basically, this is a sign people are going to know. They're going to use that as a sign or some evidence to know that I have really delivered them, right? Because, why? When you come up on this mountain, then you will know that you have been delivered. Because remember I said it's from land to land, land of captivity, land of slavery to land of freedom. The evidence spoken of when it says token, the evidence that shows and proves to you that you have been delivered, the signal, the sign that shows that you have been delivered is that there is a change in your situation. A change in your situation. By the time Jesus left with this so-called salvation, Israelites didn't have any change. They were still under the oppression and slavery of the Romans. And like I said, were killed afterwards and chased out of the land. Right? But the evidence that you're going to have and the sign that you're going to have that shows and that you can show to your generations after you that you have really been delivered from out of the land of bondage is that you will serve God upon this mountain. So when Moses came back to the children of Israel in Egypt that he had run away from so long ago and he said to me, the token, the sign, the evidence that this thing is real and is from me and is your real salvation is that you're going to serve me upon this mountain, the mountain I met with him, right? So when Moses got the children of Israel and went back to that same mountain, he in himself would know once again, all over again, that this God is really true and powerful. Also, the children of Israel would also know once again, even though they'd already seen signs from Moses that he did from the Most High, they will know once again, truly, this is the real God of our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and we have seen his power for ourselves as well in our lifetime. Because we're upon this mountain, so we're in another land, we're in a different place now. If they were still in Egypt, they wouldn't be able to use that sign, that token, that evidence. They couldn't prove with evidence that they have been delivered. They couldn't prove that to their children. So the evidence they could say to their children and present is that, son, daughter, look where we are. We're no longer back there. We've been delivered. We're up on the mountain working, serving the Most High now. You see that? The evidence. Something is different. They left one land of slavery and came out of it to a place of freedom. Jesus, by the time he left, his people were still in the same land, waiting to be slaughtered by the enemy, looking around for some fake deliverance from a fake demi-god. Alright, so keep that in mind. So if you're still in Egypt, if you're still in America, if you're still in Brazil, if you're still in Australia, if you're still in England, if you're still down in the Caribbean, if you're still all over the place where they put us on slave ships and took us over and where we ran to for safety and all that kind of stuff, we haven't been delivered yet. If the slave ship curse hasn't been reversed, we have not been delivered. Jesus did not reach an endpoint like the Most High did. The endpoint that the Most High reached was to bring them out into a different space, a different land, a different foot of ground that they could set their foot on and no longer see Egyptians. For you'll see them no more again. They didn't see that, right? When Jesus left, the Israelites were still looking around at the Romans. They were seeing them again day after day, and were sick of them. Keep that in mind. Use your real mind, your common sense, your brain that the Most High gave you. Do not suffer anymore the witchcraft from the thinking of other religions, right? Religions out there are working witchcraft on the children of Israel in this day in 2015 to make you think things that you shouldn't be thinking. Stick to the Torah, what it says. And I'm going to show you more about what it says here about how the Most High showed already that Jesus is fake. I told you in the last recording, number 6, he's a demi-god. I'm going to show you that he's a false prophet, and false prophets, as the Most High said in Deuteronomy 18, should die. Deuteronomy chapter 18 and verse 18 to 22. And it shall come to pass that whosoever will not hearken unto my words, which he shall speak in my name, I will require it of him. But the prophet which shall presume to speak a word in my name, not in Jesus' name, or in a Hebrew name that you want to call him by, same person, Son of God, in my name which I have not commanded him to speak, or that shall speak in the name of other gods, even that prophet shall die. So right here in verse 20, he is putting in the same category the prophet who speaks a lie in his name and the prophet who speaks in the name of other gods. Both of them are liars. So that means that if a prophet that speaks in the name of another god, even if he's saying something to you that's true about the scriptures, he is still a liar because he wasn't authorized to speak anything unto you, because he speaks for another god. He's the mouth of another god, the mouthpiece of another god. The Most High didn't send him. The Most High didn't anoint him to be a prophet unto Israel. So he's just a liar, the same way that the prophet who has always called on the name of the Most High is now speaking lies unto you rather than speaking the truth. even that prophet shall die. So Jesus, they say he's some great prophet and all that kind of stuff. He would have deserved death because he spoke things to you that were not right. Not right. He told you he was gonna deliver you and save you and all that kind of stuff. How often would I have gathered you? Well, they came to be gathered. Look how many times in the New Testament it said multitudes gathered. Right? Yet they were still slaughtered afterwards. And I keep hitting that slaughtering from the Romans because after he left, the people died. After Jesus appeared on the scene and took off, they died. When the Most High appeared on the scene upon the mountain to meet with Moses in the burning bush, after he left, what? People were delivered. Why? Because he sent Moses down there right away. Moses couldn't be like, I need some more time with this. Can you give me 20 more years? 50 more years? No, the Most High is like, look, to make sure that the man got up and headed there quickly, he said, look, he just addressed the man's fear because he could tell the man was afraid. It's like, look, basically saying, I know you're scared to go back because you killed the Egyptian and you ran, but I'm telling you, all the people you're afraid of, they're now dead and gone. Don't worry about that anymore. That's gone. I'm sending you back. Get up, go, deliver the people. I'm going to be with you. Here are some signs to make you comfortable and to prove as well. Right? So, verse 21 from Deuteronomy 18. And if thou say in thine heart, how shall we know the word which the Most High hath not spoken? When a prophet speaketh in the name of the Most High, if the thing follow not, nor come to pass, that is the thing which the Most High hath not spoken, but the prophet hath spoken it, presumptuously, thou shalt not be afraid of him. You can't be afraid of any judgment coming from Jesus, any condemnation come from him, any woe coming from Jesus. Because verse 21 is saying the thing should come to pass. Jesus, his deliverance didn't come to pass. He said he'll save his people from their sins. When the Israelites are saved from their sins, they will be returned to their land and they will no longer be under the power of anyone else. Their power will return. Read Joel chapter 2. Their power will return. So if Jesus has taken away your sins, why are you not empowered to free yourself from the lands of your captivity back then under the Romans and today in 2015 in all the lands that were scattered? Why are you still at the bottom, Israelite? Why are you still not getting the best jobs? Why are you still bouncing checks? Why are you suffering so much? Why are you? You have not been delivered by any Jesus or any Son of God because you don't have power to change your life. When we are restored, like Isaiah 11:11-12 and Joel chapter 2, corn and wine will flow greatly, massively, abundantly. Why? Because that's deliverance, that's salvation. We will be empowered to be on top once again. That's the salvation of the Most High. Jesus never pulled that off like he said. He didn't deliver us like he said, but instead we got slaughtered. We got slaughtered. So it says, don't be afraid of him. Let's look now at Joshua chapter 14. And this again is entitled A Slow Messiah. I'm showing you again, just like I showed there, Jesus' movement is slow 2,000 years later. We're still waiting, looking for Jesus. We waited so long that even Gentiles now are looking for Jesus to come back. Can you imagine? Things have metamorphosized so much and changed so much, right? That now everybody else is waiting to look for the same Jesus. If it had happened real fast, the Israelites would have looked for Jesus and had him happen. Have him return. But it's so long now that message spread about this Jesus worldwide now that all kinds of other people are looking for Jesus. Listen, the Bible doesn't show that Gentiles are looking for the God of Israel right now. It's afterward that Gentiles are going to come looking for your God. Man, hold off on Joshua chapter 14. Let's look that up. You see that? Where do I want now? Micah 4 verse 2. And many nations shall come and say, Come and let us go to the mountain of the Lord. Think first, how are nations going to go to the mountain of the Lord if Israel has not yet been taken to the mountain of the Lord? You see that? He's getting Israel to bring them to his holy mountain, and then the nations come afterwards. That's their salvation time. Israel, the law will go forth from Jerusalem, it's saying, right? Okay, well actually verse 1 first of Micah 4 verse 1. But in the last days, but so long ago, after Jesus left, they said they set up Jesus and the popes were running the show. You hear bishop of this and bishop of that, and Clement of Rome and all these other people, those early church fathers. Why? Because Jesus was their creation. They're running it. It's the Caesars that became popes and all that kind of stuff, right? They are running the show. Jesus is their creation to deceive the Israelites, to keep us away from the Most High and from the commandments, from the Torah, because they wanted to knock it down, because whenever we keep Torah, we will be empowered. Just like when we didn't keep Torah, we were no longer empowered and couldn't resist the enemy, so the enemies took us over. So the Most High said it like that so that we'll be hit by the enemy to realize that we should be keeping his precepts, his Torah. Right? So if they're running the show, early church fathers and all that, it's because it's their creation. Jesus is their creation. The Christian church is their creation. And think as well too, Israelites. Think about this. All this New Testament talk, keep in mind New Testament is fake, is what I'm holding on to. In the New Testament, there's all kinds of mighty deeds by Jesus, and then you got some strong deeds as well by the apostles. They're running around preaching and teaching and healing people and all kind of stuff. They fill up the pages of the New Testament, these apostles. Did you notice that after the New Testament, which was covering a fairly short span of time, it's not like New Testament ran 1,000 years, fairly short space of time, the apostles died off. And all of a sudden, what you hear of after that is early church fathers. Why? They took over because now that they've written the apostles into the New Testament, disciples turned apostles, they're done with the apostles. They've done their duty. They've done their job for the church or Christian creation. They've done their job, so now we switch over now to the real deal. And it's now church fathers, early church fathers, that are the talk of the town. Early church fathers are running the show. Early church fathers, did they do anything like the apostles? Early church fathers now become the new apostles. They now become the new power movers, the new people who are bringing the power of God on earth. They now call the shots. They now call the shots until it gets to the point where even the Pope is called the Vicar of Christ. Don't you see that something's wrong in the New Testament? Jesus passes on the baton to the disciples. They turn apostles, and then somehow the baton gets passed on to early church fathers who cared nothing about the law to this day. To this day. The Catholic system, the Christian system, care nothing about the law to this day. Not back then and not today. Read Eusebius from way back then. Read up on the Council of Nicaea. Read up on all these early historians that are talking about this stuff, right? And they're telling you that a law was passed to cut out the Sabbath from Saturday and put it to Sunday. So that everything that is done normally on the Sabbath will be now moved to Sunday. Why? They're changing the Sabbath. Daniel 7:25, they're going to change times and laws. They're changing it. Why? Because Christianity was their creation. The New Testament was their creation. How can the apostles pass on that stuff to them and then they do all this stuff? Well, brother, they just defected. They just lost the faith. Okay. Holy Ghost just dropped. The mightiest presence of God on the earth since the time of Sinai and the Ark and all that, and Joshua and Moses and them. Holy Ghost dropped on the day of Pentecost, and a new thing is happening in the earth, and it doesn't have any power to last longer than just the time of the apostles? It doesn't have any power to last longer than that? Where are the men that the apostles passed on the baton to, who were just running all over the earth and tearing it up? Yeah, well, there is this and that. Is there anyone in early church history that was quite like the apostles? You mean another 12 apostles couldn't come up after them if each one taught one? Or if each one taught 24, 2 dozen of them can come up? You mean one powerful apostle, each powerful apostle could not reach at least 2 people or at least 3 people? And they're starting all these many churches? And you got the ones who were walking with Jesus where Paul didn't. And all of a sudden Paul comes on the scene and he takes over the whole show, and they have to all basically listen to him and they have to bow out to him and take a back burner, and he carries the clout. He's the biggest thing since Jesus, bigger than all the other disciples who actually walked with Jesus. And you're telling me he knows more than them, he's more powerful than them, he knows all. It's a deception. It's a deception. There are some people in this earth, which I've got for another video, so I'm not going to say too much about it right now. There are some people in this earth who have gone all over the earth and they are experts at religion creation. Religion creation. They went to India. They just went everywhere and they took all the gods from the different nations that they went to and conquered and turned those gods into their own gods. They created their own gods. They captured the gods of Egypt and made their own version of those gods as well. Everywhere they go, they take over. The people take over their culture. They change the people's culture as much as they want to. And they change their religions. They change their gods. They make up new religions. Or they twist and contort the religion that those nations had. Sometimes they change the names of those gods just by even 1 letter or 2 letters, and sometimes change the whole name of the god, right? Or change the image of the god, the statue, and make it look a little different, right? You see what I'm saying? They are experts at religion creation. So when you get to this Jesus stuff, they are creating a religion that is different from the God of Israel. The Israelites did not have a religion actually. They kept some laws that the Most High gave to them. Thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill. Is that a religion, or is that a set of guidelines for you to observe, to pay attention to, so that you live properly in the land with each other? Because why? If you kill, then you wipe out each other. The whole nation goes down because your neighbor that you killed, he's just going to come back and take revenge. The guy across town you killed, he's going to come back and take revenge, just like in all these drug wars. Until eventually a whole war breaks out, all y'all kill each other. Then I can't have the nation that I am building out of you, right? So, I tell you, thou shalt not kill. That's not a religion, people. It was a way of living based on some rules or laws, as they call it, some guidelines for living. Israelites had a guideline for living, but Christianity set up itself as a religion. Somebody's out there creating religions on the earth. And they created Christianity, and the Israelites today are still washed in their minds, not by the word of the Most High, but by a deceptive teaching of this religion that has Christ as its center. I don't care what you want to say to me about how you are expert at explaining Paul. The fact is, Christianity and the New Testament has as its central figure Jesus Christ, not the Most High. I don't care how much you stretch that, that is fact. And when you teach that in your camp, that the Most High is the center of the New Testament, those people in your camp, they look at you and they just say, yeah, because they're part of your camp. But when they're alone on their beds at night and they're reading this stuff on their own, they know that something's wrong with what you just thought. They know. And the more they keep hearing this kind of teaching, they're going to start to think for themselves more and more. And we're not going to stop teaching these stuff. Something's wrong with the New Testament. And y'all need to wake up and start teaching truth and teach Torah only. I already got cussed out. I haven't even gotten off the ground yet. I'm just 1.5 years into this, and people are already cussing me out, swear words, F words, all that kind of stuff, sending private emails, private messages, telling me all kinds of liar, you're going to hell, and you're a false prophet, and all kinds of stuff. But when I ask those people, they keep backing down from the verses that they're giving me to show that Jesus is real and all that kind of stuff, and they keep changing back and withdrawing the verse that they put forward, and then now they want to take away that verse and use another verse, because every time I come up with stuff, they're like, okay, no, this verse. Like, I am not pulling back on any verse so far with any of these people. And just so you know, I got so many points to hit this Jesus stuff from that I'm actually going to feel a little bit silly making the series very long. Like, what am I going to do? Do a 50 video series, a 200 point series? Or should I just stop it at maybe 10 videos or something like that? That's how many points I got to come at this from different angles, to march around like Jericho till the stuff comes down, to do that with all the other people who are teaching that something's wrong with the New Testament or with this fake Jesus. Not doing this by myself, it's us. We who are doing this can see something in the scriptures that condemn the New Testament Christianized teaching and are working together by the Most High to bring forth His truth in these times. Thank you, all the Israelite camps out there who taught all these great things that, let us know that we're the Israelites and it was hidden from us, now we're finding out, and all the other great things that they teach and so on. I'm not condemning you. People condemn me for teaching these things in this lesson here, but I'm not condemning you just because you're following Jesus. No, I'm just teaching to let you know, hey, maybe, thank you for this and that. Maybe you missed something along the way. Maybe you started teaching so quickly after coming out of Christianity that you didn't have time to shut off the Christian thinking enough. You shut off a lot of it, but 5% of it was still hanging on. We all do with that, even myself. There's some things I think in a Christian way, even this past week, that I'm like, oh, I got to change that kind of thinking, right? So, don't think to yourselves that you come into the understanding that you're the Israelites, that we're the Israelites, and just in 20 years or in 40 years or in 50 years, we just have all the answers. No. You are teaching some stuff right now in your camp that 50 years ago, when the first one was teaching it, you agreed to, and now you've changed, you've upgraded some stuff because it's like, no, that couldn't have been right, or more research have been done and now we understand and whatever, or 20 years ago when you started out, you're teaching some stuff, and now other people are like, no. You see that? It takes time. There's no way we're going to be suffering from a syndrome 174, Jeremiah 17 verse 4, disconnecting from your heritage, and when you come back and just right away in just 10 or 20 years, we all know everything. No. Israel in the Old Testament grew in stages. As each prophet came, more was taught. They learned more. So it is that when they lost their heritage, it didn't just happen suddenly. They lost it by disobeying the Most High, going into the lifestyle of the other nations, and gradually, slowly, as the Most High sent prophets to talk to them, they ignored it, eventually they ignored it fully. First they're like, okay, yeah, they gave heed, then they came back, then they, and so it was a gradual thing that they fell off until they just walked away from it altogether. So it is that when we're returning is going to, coming back to our heritage, and the knowledge of who we are is going to grow in stages. We're going to grow in stages. We're going to come back to it. Gradually, we're going to learn. Somebody who came into this thing 50 years ago has less knowledge than somebody who came into this thing 30 years ago. You started 20 years ago. Somebody 5 years ago came to this thing are seeing things clearer. And somebody who's just coming into this thing this year, 5 years from now, they're going to have more information to teach even myself, right? And the rest of us. Why? As we learn and study more, we learn, we grow, we know more. And so everyone that comes in later on will have more information from all the great teachings that the rest of us are doing to look at the same scriptures that we've been teaching and piece things together better. Some of us know very well, including myself, that there are some things we teach and we kind of wonder, it's kind of borderline, but it seems right. And you don't have any 100% reason to think it's wrong, but you're not 100% fully convinced that it's right either. So it's kind of borderline. You can't see right now how the scripture is against it, but you're just not satisfied that it's not fully clear to you, but you still teach it. But somebody else will come 5 years from now, 10 years from now, hopefully it won't be that long, who are going to look at all the teachings that we all have been teaching and they're going to put it together. Why? That's how Israel is going to come back together. We gradually fell off. We're going to gradually grow. And that's why the Bible uses a word like growth, growing, learning, right? Because it comes in stages. It comes in stages. So I'm not condemning any teacher out there. I love all the brothers out there that are teaching, and I haven't met them yet. And I'm thankful for all that they've done, the diligence that they've had to study and search. But remember, our enemies taught us things that we would teach when we wake up and find out that it's us. They knew we were going to be in a hurry to teach the rest of us, because they knew we were going to try to wake up the next one beside us. So they gave us stuff that would throw us off, to teach wrong things, right? The Most High is getting ready to gather us, and he's bringing us back together, and that includes a learning and growing. That's why the Most High says, and they shall all know me. And in those days, the children of Israel says, seek the Most High, their God. Why? Because you're not going to know everything now, so you're still going to have seeking to do. All right? So if we get back to Micah chapter 4, verse 1, in the last days it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of the Most High shall be established. So to skip over some of the verses, because I've gone a little bit longer than I wanted to, excuse me, once the mountain is established, the house of the Lord is established, and so on, that's being done with Israel and for Israel. Right? And the hills shall flow, people shall flow onto it, and so on, right? And many nations, verse 2, shall come and say, right? So Israel is restored, Israel is established, then salvation comes to the other nations, right? And you notice where the other nations are coming? From their land to our land. To get it. Because salvation is not going to be with them in their land where they are, with their teachings. So they got to come to another land. Just like when the salvation of the Israelites is happening, they got to leave a land of slavery, of no knowledge, to come to a land of knowledge. That the Most High promised them, right? You see that? Everybody coming to the Most High has to leave one place to get to the next place. That's salvation. That includes salvation. So when Jesus didn't deliver people from Roman occupation, they still had to run and flee to other lands. Which means that they're even farther now, because at least they were still in the land. Judah, at least they were still there. But it wasn't like it's their land because they were under the power of somebody else who didn't want them to live just the way that they should live according to their laws. And now they're even farther by having to run. All right? And so the nations are going to come running unto us, right? And the law will go forth from Jerusalem, if you read the end of verse 2 from Micah chapter 4. So you see, once this thing is set up, in Micah chapter 1, the mount of the Lord, the house of the Lord established and all kind of stuff, people are going to be flocking quickly right away, because they're going to know right away we are the children of Israel and the Most High is with us, and they're going to come and want it badly because they're tired of suffering under their own nation that's trying to control them. You see that? Quickness, even for the other nations after this, once Israel gets restored, and the law will go forth from Jerusalem. The Most High, when he gets ready to deliver, he is quick with it. He's the biggest Messiah of all. Right? He's not going to wait no 2,000 years to try to deliver us. When he gets ready, it's just time. It is just time. So now let's get back quickly to Joshua chapter 14 and verse 7. Again, I'm showing some quickness here. Caleb in Joshua 14 verse 7. 40 years old was I when Moses, the servant of the Most High, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to spy out the land, and I brought him word again as it was in mine hand. You see that? So I'm showing the quickness, right, of the deliverance that's happening. The Most High said he's going to give them the land of the Canaanites, Hivites, Hittites, all that kind of stuff. And he moved fast with Moses going down there. He didn't wait no 2,000 years until people got frustrated. And it's like, this guy telling us about this God that's going to deliver us, he's a joke. No, he moved quickly with Moses, and then after that, in just a matter of years again, this man is saying 40 years is not a long time when compared to 2,000 years that we've been waiting, right? 40 years old was I, and he's like, hey, I can do it again, right? Nevertheless, the brethren that were with me, they were kind of, they were different in their heart, basically, he's saying, and their heart melted, right? But if you go on to read it, he's like, yeah, we can still do this, right? But the point is that 40 years ago, when Moses was speaking these things, he said, hey, I went up and I did this. And 40 years. The thing was progressing. There was constant movement, right? They're getting ready to take over the lands which the Most High said unto Moses that they were going to get and take over from these other nations, right? So the Most High didn't drop it off. He's quickly establishing them, right? And we can tell for sure that some of the delay was because of their own hearts. Like the Most High said, the day I brought you out of Egypt, you were transgressing against me. Why? It was in their hearts. Just like how they made the golden calf right away after coming out of Egypt. Why? You know? And I'm told, I don't remember how much, I think it was like probably 11 days or something like that was the journey that they should have made out of Egypt over to the new land. But to make it to safety, but it took them 40 years, right? So had they not had all these difficulties resisting Moses and resisting the word of the Most High and all that, they wouldn't have taken 40 years there, probably. Why? Because the Most High was just on the move to set up his people. So from these things I'm reading here and seeing in the scriptures, this Jesus seems to be a slow Messiah. And that slowness, I'm sorry to say, just clearly amounts to deception. The reason why it's 2,000 years is because at 500 years he wasn't going to come because he was a fake. 600 years, still a fake. Entered into dark ages, he's still a fake. He's not delivering them. And the Catholic system killed how many millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of people, including our people. Slaughtered again, even though the Romans had slaughtered us before that, fed us alliance. Here we are being slaughtered again in the dark ages. And still no Jesus showing up to deliver his people. Slaughtered in Jerusalem, have to run to that, and now slaughtered worldwide again in Europe and other places. This Jesus isn't coming, man. He's a fake. At year 1000, he's still not coming. Now you got the Masoretes coming in and handling the Bible, the scrolls, and changing stuff on us and whatever, changing a letter here, a letter there. This Jesus still ain't coming. He's a fake. But the Most High, I can trust him. Because he didn't tell you what time he's coming. I'm coming July 3rd at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. He said, when my anger is done, I'm going to come and gather you. Right? That's what he said. So you can wait on that, right? And just think of it. Some of us are still not living the way he said. Right? So you better be thankful that there was time enough for you to find out and learn some of these things, that you can make some changes in your own heart. Expectation postponed. Now, as a final point, I'll tell you, it seems to me, this is just coming to me in the past day or two, that of all this talk for a number of years now about black nationality, I hope that's the right term I'm using, black nationalism, that's what I should have said, that black people, we know that we have suffered from being against each other, we hurt each other, we step on each other to climb the ladder, all that kind of talk. And we don't help each other enough and so on. And to be honest with you, some of the reasons why, I mean, sometimes we're hard on each other, but really, some of the reasons, a part of the reason why we don't help each other is because we can't. Now, don't take that all the way, because that's not proper either. Because if we really come together, of course, we can do a whole lot more. But sometimes, for us to help the next person beside us, we fall down so low, we'll start to curse life again, curse God, curse the person we helped. So sometimes, sometimes you got to understand that sometimes your brother isn't helping you because he doesn't care. It's difficult, but that's a part of our curse as well, right? He shall lend to thee, and you won't lend to him. So if your brother is already suffering and needs someone to lend to him, if he helps you, hey. So we just feel that we haven't helped each other enough by coming together enough to address our situation properly, and to get out of this curse that we're in. But I think what we've fallen for is all this black talk about black nationalism. We need to come together to stop all this madness and to rise up and whatever. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't do any of that. Of course we need to come together and whatever. But a lot of the people that I hear talking about this coming together, a lot of times they don't even mention anything from the Bible. thank the Most High for the Israelites now who are teaching in their camps, who are saying, no, when you're coming together, you need to deal with the Bible. Deuteronomy 28:6-8 are justice or curses. That's how we need to come together, based on that understanding of what we need to do. But all these other people writing about, oh, all this African knowledge and black knowledge and Kemet and all that kind of stuff, they don't care about mentioning anything from the Most High. That's the problem. We've had all this Egyptian talk for all of these many years, and it has done us no good. Okay, yeah, so I was saying we've heard all this talk about Egypt, Kemet, and all that. What has it done for us? From I was a child, a small boy in Jamaica, I heard about Africa, I heard about Egypt, I heard about African kings, African queens, all that. And that stuff has been pushed for so long now, and nothing has happened, right? That movement died down. It's still out there, of course, but, not as strong as when it was, So I think the Israelites, are just trying to gather themselves with this black nationalism kind of thinking, with something that's common to all of us. If you put up a black Jesus and show that image and say, see, this white Cesar Borgia image is fake. Jesus was black, and we got drawings on walls that they found. Of course, because there could have been a Jesus that lived, somebody called Jesus. We know there were many Jesus, If there was a real Jesus that lived, he's still a liar based on scripture, so he can't be your Messiah. But if he lived, of course they could have put his picture there, as well as he could have just been a creation of the Romans. He could have just been a creation of the Greeks, right? He could have been a creation of the Egyptians. And so, being such a creation, of course you're going to have to create that image and put it on walls to show you. And then later on, the image got manipulated when the beast got into power again and said, change that image to a white image, look like a white Jesus. Alright? So now you wake up and you're like, oh, he was black. See some pictures we found. And so the Israelites are using this black Jesus image to unify the black people who don't care about this African stuff, but will be unified on a religious front. So give them a black Jesus and they'll unify. But you're still breaking the commandments. It says, thou shalt have no other power before me, Deuteronomy 5:7. You're still using an image, right? Don't have any other power before me. And if you read on, again, the commandments continue to say, do not use any kind of image. Do not. So, I don't know how, well, I guess we just didn't see it because we're just not seeing what people are going to be talking about these things more and more. Don't have any other God before me, and don't have any graven image before me, right? I pointed out before, the graven image it can be something that you carve out of wood with a chisel, with a saw, with a knife, something that you're chipping out of stone. Now you can make the graven image out of plastic, and keep in mind too, or out of metal. A graven image is also something that's printed on paper, like that image you have of Jesus. Why? It's black nationalism thinking, partly. I'm not going to say everyone is using it in that way, but there are some who I think are definitely using this black Jesus as a black nationalism kind of approach to unifying the black people who are concerned with Bible, whereas they can't push that with people who are black who don't care about the Bible, right? But the ones who care about it and are in Christianity, they'll use the Jesus thing, the black Jesus thing, to show, hey, because if you have an image that looks like you, then you can unify based on that. But you're still breaking the commandments. So you see the problem now, the difficulty with us really Can you understand now how the Israelites got in the problem in the first place? They kept breaking the commandments and doing other things that they shouldn't have been doing. And we are still doing it today by using some image, breaking the commandment, even though we're saying that we are coming back to the truth. We're still breaking the commandments by having an image in our worship, a black image of a black Jesus. And if we don't have that put up over our head on the wall behind us or something like that, we don't feel that we're teaching our nation the laws and statutes of the Most High and all that. So, we got to clear that up. Commandment says don't have a graven image. A graven image is still printing on paper as well, because there's a print head in your printer on the cartridge that will carve out and shape out an image on your paper to print that black Jesus. It's still a graven image. It's just like you say, oh, the modern day sword is the gun or a bomb or something like that. Well, they didn't have printers back then, but you're still carving with the print head. It's burning. Your laser is burning or carving an image onto your paper. Right? And even the older printers were still striking and carving out with the ink that image on a paper. So you see, it's still a problem with the commandment there, right? The Most High is saying return. Just return. Think of it. Just return to the Most High based on what he says in the Torah. There is no Jesus. All these verses that I've seen so far that I was believing because I was new and been taught that this Jesus is who I should believe in, I don't see that anymore, because I'm like, look, I left Christianity thinking this Jesus is a fake, a fraud. And when I come, I should still worship him? No, not anymore. Shalom.